The invasion will be swift. Commander Velek stood at the viewport of the Zaraki flagship triumphant spear, arms clasped behind his back, gazing down at the blue and green world below. Primitive, he muttered. No orbital defenses. No unified military coordination. This will be over by the cycle's end. His officers chittered in agreement. The conquest of Earth was the final step in the Empire's expansion through the Orion Arm. The species below, humans, had shown minor resistance during initial scans. Scattered militaries, fragmented governments, tribal in behavior. The perfect target. Velek turned to his crew. Deploy all dropships. Begin Phase 1 of planetary subjugation. Hundreds of Zaraki craft detached from orbit, screaming through Earth's atmosphere toward major population centers. EMP bursts knocked out communications. Satellites blinked into darkness. Cities were thrown into chaos. Just as planned. In New York, civilians screamed as the sky darkened with metal. Black-armored Zaraki troops poured into the streets, their exosuits gleaming, weapons scanning for targets. Resistance was expected to be minimal. It wasn't. The first ambush came in a subway tunnel. A squad of Zaraki soldiers swept through, confident. They didn't notice the tripwire until it was too late. A homemade explosive, scrap metal, nails, and rage ripped through their ranks. A second squad moved to assist, only to be hit with Molotovs and rifle fire from upper platforms. On the surface, sniper fire echoed between buildings. Civilians, supposedly untrained, moved in coordinated bursts. They struck from above, disappeared into alleys, used smoke and debris to vanish. Lieutenant Shax, embedded in the Manhattan incursion team, growled into his comms. They don't fight like primitives. They don't break. They bait. Back on the triumphant spear, Velek frowned at the live feed. The humans weren't scattering in terror. They were organizing. Local militia groups had sprung up within hours. Old-world armies were rallying. Even civilians were creating digital networks using analog tech the Zaraki hadn't anticipated. This isn't right, one technician muttered. Their resistance is escalating. Fast. We disabled their global systems, Velek said, pacing. How are they adapting so quickly? Because they've lived with chaos, came the reply. They've trained for war, not just on other species, but on themselves. Across the globe, similar reports rolled in. In Tokyo, a coordinated drone swarm hacked together from commercial parts disabled an armored walker. In rural Texas, farmers used tractors and shotguns to down a scout ship. In Warsaw, hackers infiltrated Zaraki comms and began spreading false coordinates. Humanity had no central command, no united army, but they didn't need one. They had fury, they had history, and they had a planet that fought alongside them. By nightfall, the victory Velek had promised looked more like a quagmire. He stayed once more at Earth, the lights of cities flickering like fireflies. They were supposed to kneel, he whispered. Instead, Earth roared. Death World tactics. The jungle was alive, not just in the sense of flora and fauna, but in the way it watched. The Zaraki scout unit moved cautiously through the Amazon rainforest, their armor coated with condensation, motion sensors pinging with constant false positives. Commander Threx wiped a smear of sap from his visor. Atmosphere too dense for clear scans, his adjutant muttered. Heat signatures overlap. The terrain's confusing our pathfinding. It's a forest, Threx growled. How bad can it be? They learned the answer 3 steps later. A vine snapped. Not a vine, wire. The first explosion tore through the lead walker's leg, sending it crashing into the underbrush. Gunfire erupted from nowhere, short bursts, calculated, retreating before retaliation. Contact! Fan out! Frex shouted, but the jungle didn't allow for formations. Massive roots and twisting trees broke line of sight. Insects swarmed at the smell of alien blood. One soldier slipped into a river, swept away screaming. Another stumbled into a spike trap hidden beneath fallen leaves. These aren't wild strikes, Frex muttered. They are hunting us. A human voice crackled through a hacked channel. Welcome to our turf. By nightfall, the unit was half strength. Of those left, some were injured, others hallucinating from native fungi spores. Their tech, designed for clean, open-world combat, was choking in mud, humidity, and unpredictable animal life. A Jaguar mauled one trooper before anyone could react. Elsewhere, the same story played out. In the Siberian tundra, a Zeraki convoy stalled in a snowstorm. The cold leached through armor. Fuel froze. Then came the howls, wolves first, then bullets. Human silhouettes emerged briefly from whiteout conditions, firing, vanishing like ghosts. One alien squad turned on their heat beacons to see better, sniped before they could react. "They don't meet us head-on," reported a surviving officer. "They let the planet bleed us, then finish the job." In the Mojave Desert, a Zeraki patrol found itself lured into a canyon. Their scanners picked up a heat bloom, a decoy generator hidden beneath a solar panel. As they approached, the entire canyon wall exploded. Homemade explosives buried in rock, precisely timed. Corporal Juno Ramirez emerged from the dust, shotgun in hand, and grinned. "You want to invade a death world? Get ready to die on it." Back in orbit, Velek paced furiously. Reports flooded in, units routed, equipment failing, morale collapsing. "We've conquered advanced civilizations," he barked. "How are these savages stopping us?" A grim-faced analyst responded, "Sir, this isn't war as we know it. It's a test of pain, adaptability, and they've mastered both. Earth is more than a battleground. It's a weapon." Velek's claws tapped the console. He looked again at the swirling greens, whites, and browns of the planet below. Earth had looked peaceful from afar. Now, it felt like it was alive, and it hated them. The human weapon. Sergeant Kira Walsh sat bound to a cold metal chair in the center of a Zeraki interrogation chamber. Her face was bruised, her lips split, but she grinned like she'd just won a bet. Across from her, Interrogator Varnix adjusted the frequency on his neural probe. "You are wounded. Captured. Your resistance is failing. Tell us your command centers." Kira laughed. "Command centers. You think we need some general barking orders to fight? That's adorable." Varnix frowned. "You are not a united species." "No," Kira said, leaning forward as much as the restraints allowed. "We're worse. We're stubborn, independent, spiteful. You hit us, we don't scatter, we organize. Doesn't matter who leads, only that we stand back up." He activated the probe. Pain lanced through her skull, but her smile didn't break. "Is that all you've got? My high school dentist was rougher." Varnix paused, unsettled. "How are you resisting? This technique breaks hardened warriors." "You ever heard of a place called Sarajevo?" she rasped. "Stalingrad, Vietnam. We've been killing each other for centuries. You're just a new flavor of done." He tapped his datapad. Historical records, battles, wars. There were thousands. Humanity had fought over land, gods, ideas, resources, and survived it all. You evolved on a war-scarred world. He muttered. "Yeah," Kira said. "We call it Earth. You call it a target. But it made us exactly what you weren't ready for." Elsewhere in the facility, alarms blared. An explosion rocked the hallway. Varnix turned, startled. "You didn't think they'd let you keep me, did you?" Kira said smugly. The wall behind Varnix erupted in shrapnel. Smoke and shouting filled the room as human operatives stormed in. One tossed Kira a sidearm. She caught it midi, still cuffed. "Miss me?" The team leader shouted. "Like hell," she replied, unloading the weapon into two stunned guards. Minutes later, as they moved through the burning wreckage of the alien base, Kira paused to etch something into the scorched wall with a knife. "You invaded the wrong species." Meanwhile, back aboard the triumphant Spear, panic was setting in. The interrogation facility had been deep behind enemy lines. Its destruction marked the fifth such human infiltration that week. Zeraki morale was crumbling. Commander Velek stood before a massive holo-display of Earth, flickering red with lost territories. "They are unbreakable," he whispered. "No," Varnix corrected, limping into the command room. "They are not unbreakable. They are worse. They are angry. Then we match their rage." Varnix shook his head. "You don't understand. We came for conquest. They turned it into vengeance. This isn't a species defending its home, it's one avenging every scar it ever bore. Velek stayed in silence as Earth rotated slowly before them. Once, it had seemed weak, fragile. Now it felt like a clenched fist, ready to swing. The counterstrike. The skies above Earth burned, but not with defeat. With purpose. Dozens of retrofitted spacecraft launched from underground bunkers, hidden spaceports, and improvised assembly yards. Human ingenuity had never moved faster. Nations had pooled resources not out of trust, but survival. Old rivalries were shelved. Humanity had one shared goal: push the invaders back into the void. Captain Elijah Grant stood on the bridge of the human warship Reckoning, eyes fixed on the distant shimmer of the Zaraki fleet. "Orders," his pilot asked, fingers trembling over the console. Grant's voice was cold steel. "Target their command ship. Cut off the head." Back on the triumphant Spear, Commander Velek watched the human fleet ascend. "They built ships in weeks," he hissed. "They stripped museums, scrapyards, and old stations," his lieutenant replied. "They weaponized cargo haulers, mining rigs, even passenger liners. They are not sleek, but they are dangerous. And they were fast." The first human salvo didn't just target ships. It struck morale. Hijacked signals blasted Earth music, raw, defiant, furious, across all channels. Human pilots screamed battle cries, quoting history, poetry, even memes. Some played rock music over open comms as they dove into Zaraki fire. They weren't soldiers. They were fighters. On board the Reckoning, Grant's ship led the charge. Ready railguns. Fire at will. Beams of light and kinetic slugs tore through Zaraki formations. For every human ship destroyed, 3 more surged forward. They weren't bound by Zaraki tactics. They zigzagged, collided deliberately, sacrificed pieces of their own hulls to ram critical systems. On the ground, Earth's resistance surged. With orbital support now online, human forces coordinated strikes against stranded alien troops. Cities once under siege turned into traps. Guerrilla fighters linked with national armies, wiping out Zaraki pocket street by street. In Paris, civilians dragged down a downed dropship and repainted it with a single word: revenge. On board the triumphant Spear, Velek watched as his once mighty fleet fractured. Officers abandoned posts. Troops requested emergency extraction. Entire regions went dark. "Retreat," he ordered, chest heaving. "Pull back from orbit. Get us out of here." Too late. The Reckoning broke through their lines. A final volley tore into the flagship's reactor. As fire blossomed behind him, Velek collapsed to his knees, staring out at Earth. It was no longer a planet to be conquered. It was a warning. The last thing he saw before the flames consumed him was Earth's silhouette rising above the curve of the moon. Scarred, furious, unyielding. Hours later, global broadcasts crackled to life. Humanity had done more than survive. They had won. In a field hospital, Sergeant Kira Walsh sipped lukewarm coffee, watching the sunrise with tired eyes. "We did it," someone said beside her. "No," she replied. "We showed them who we are." Because Earth wasn't just a death world. It was home to a species that refused to kneel, even to the stars.